meeting of the Carlynton School District Board of Directors is called to order. Principal Lance, we have some special guests.
Yes, I am so fortunate to have Skyla, Elaine, and Brady, and Mr. Donnelly here. They had a wonderful experience with Mr. Donnelly and Mrs. Cummings, who organized a trip to Washington, D.C. They did it in a whole day, but it was more than just a trip. They did a ton of background knowledge. They incorporated all the subjects. So I'm here to let them talk to you a little bit about their experience. So, come on up, guys.
Before the pledge.
Oh, before the pledge, yep.
Great. Come on up, guys, so everyone can see you. Real quick, just want to mention a few things we did before the trip to get us ready. What do you want to point out a couple things? Okay, what about the letters we wrote? What did we write them to?
We wrote to Tim Murphy.
Right. We researched some of his what he's been working on in Congress the last several years, and we wrote thank yous. The veterans right for veterans benefits. What else? We remember what else he was really fighting for.
Keeping on the mind.
Keeping yeah. But let me just. I have a couple real quick pictures of the first picture actually. I think is of. Just back up. It's just a sample of our letters that we wrote, but basically his veterans issues, keeping helping the steel industry from foreign dumping, and we're gonna give these to him in person. I left them on the bus when we got to DC because we were getting off and with security and everything. But we're gonna hand deliver to his Mount Lebanon office. And he was so excited that he's gonna get these. He actually wants to come next fall to visit the students to respond to the letters. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully that will happen. You want to explain this, girls? What do we do with that?
What we did with this is we put
Okay.
we explained the 3 branches of the U.S. government.
And you remember which buildings we saw that represented each one of those?
The White House. We didn't get to see the White House, but we could see it from the distance of Washington Monument.
That was the lockdown on May 20th. But we saw from a distance.
Nice. It is the part of the branch that the White House is a part of is the executive,
What do we see? What was our first stop? Which branch did we represent on our first building we visited?
The legislative.
Right, the legislative of the U.S. Capitol. And what did we do there?
We got to meet 3 of Tim Murphy's
Aides.
Representative
Representative Murphy was actually working in Greensburg that day. It was in Congress was in recess.
And we got to see what the gallery for the representatives looked like.
Yeah, actually was for the State of the Union is given, which is not just you can't get that with a normal tour. You have to be there with your congressman and representatives. That was special. What about from judicial? We didn't have time to see the Supreme Court. That was on the agenda, but we didn't have time for that.
Yeah.
So just talk about your favorite, Skylar, your favorite 2 highlights from the trip.
My 2 highlights from the trip were the Washington Monument because it was so high in person, and
What did everyone do as soon as we walked up to it?
they put their heads back to look up, and they were scared that I was gonna like tip.
Some people actually did what? They just put their heads up. What did a lot of the kids do?
They put their feet on the
They lay down and put their like a 90-degree turn to get up. We have a couple of those pictures on here. Elaine, what was your highlight?
I actually like the Washington Monument too.
Brady?
It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It was pretty much a very incredible visit, and I would love to go again. My highlight of our Washington D.C. trip was seeing what the planets look like in the Air and Space Museum.
Do you remember what we did before the trip for that on the website? Did you get the chance to expand?
We got a chance to see what the Fielders something brothers airplane. Wright Brothers airplane. And we got to see what the airplane looked like that Amelia Earhart flew.
Yep.
When she crashed in the middle of the ocean.
Okay. Matt, let's talk a little bit about math. What did Mrs. Cummings have you do in math?
Mrs. Cummings had us do math problems based off of our Washington D.C. trip before we went. Like,
Girls, give me examples.
The cherry blossom tree that lined the tidal basin and has beautiful pink blooms every spring were a gift from the mayor of Tokyo in 1912. How long have the cherry blossoms been in DC?
Okay, so yeah, there's a subtraction problem there. What about the research? Talk about, girls, about the research we did in both classes. What was the assignment as far as the individual?
We were split it up into like groups. Well, not really groups. Like we were assigned to a monument or a memorial, and we had to find some facts about it, and so
What we turn that into?
a little like pamphlet.
Yeah, like a travel brochure. Okay, let's just show a couple quick pictures. I can do the whole vacation and see every single picture. We'll do a move this one forward. Let's touch it. Okay, then you can just girls, we're gonna do a quick real quick narration. What's going on there?
this is when we were on our way.
Our fancy.
Our Anderson 08 bus.
What time do we have to be there, everyone?
6 o'clock.
No, we
No,
have to be there.
5:45.
We left sharply at 6 a.m.
6:12.
Did we? We left a little late?
Yeah.
Okay. Visit the Capitol Visitor Center. Can I do this with it? No. We'll do a couple of the photos. Just got a quick tour of the Visitor Center of the Capitol before we started everything off. Just real nice tour. Lots of people there, obviously, on a Friday in May. Okay, let's go to. Remember what that was?
The center of Washington, D.C.
The exact geographic center of Washington, D.C. That's in the Capitol. So LaFont designed that. Remember what that is?
This is a painting of George Washington by.
Where is this? Do you remember?
It was the top of the dome in the U.S. Capitol.
Very good. Okay, Air and Space Museum, or no, this is the Capitol still. Couple statues. This is our guy. We saw, this is pretty cool. I didn't even know this was in here. Oh, remember guys what this was?
This was the old Supreme Court chamber that they stopped using in 1980.
What do we know about the Supreme Court? How many justices? Air and Space Museum. That was pretty, the kids loved that. We were there for about an hour or so. We broke them up into groups. Chase Brandon viewers, he's a big Lindbergh fan, so I want to go see the stuff about Lindbergh, so we found that. These will all be, eventually going to have a program that will be online for everyone to see.
I just can't thank Mr. Donnelly for coming enough for all of their work, and the foundation, the Carlynton Foundation helped pay for it, along with some other donors and the students paying for themselves, so.
Yeah, we had somebody, some friends donated, we had the foundation, the PTA, of course, contributed. I tried to budget so it was affordable for everybody. When it couldn't go for financial reasons, always gotten some funding, so there's no one left behind for finances. Everyone
And it led perfect to the Vets Roll program, which the mayor talked about last time, so.
Okay. Again, what was your sale? You said your Washington Monument, and Air and Space. Okay, great.
Jeffrey, release the pledge. Good job.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I just want to recognize the elementary building, Chelsea Fritz, and your English classes, correct? They have created, two lending libraries available in the elementary buildings over the summer. So I'm going to explain that quickly.
Hi, Chelsea Fritz. I'm the English and English teacher. This year I took on bringing back the Interact Club, and we have just under 20 students this year. This was our first cake, and it'll be in this flower pot. And we're gonna put cauliflower on top of it.
Where across the building for this event?
Somewhere in the front of the building.
Outside?
Thank you.
One thing, Mr. Donnelly, I want to commend you also, so awesome job for your presentation. Also want to commend you for using all different types of aspects of education with the trip. You have your math, you have your art, the way you're looking at stats, you know, just everything, so well done.
Yeah, Mrs. Chris, the art teacher, actually did some stuff with them as well. She taught them how to do the campus on Word, and so yeah, it was a nice collaboration.
It's really good to be able to bring all of this stuff together, so well done.
Thank you.
Kids, thank you for coming and sharing with us. So, would the secretary please call the roll?
Director O'Brien. Director Shell. Present. Director Hartsock.
Here.
Director Mendoza. Here. Director Dewey. Here. Director Hart. Here. Director Apple.
Here.
Director Schuyler.
Here. Before we start the main portion of our meeting, we have a special recognition today for two different people. Dr. Pike, you have a presentation.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be able to acknowledge and recognize the service that our staff members have given to our students and community over along these many years. Two individuals that we're honoring tonight for the service, lead Green and Gold. They are here on a daily basis, working beyond the clock for the benefit of students and the benefit of teachers to help make our program more efficient, more student-friendly, more community-friendly. And it's a good illustration in the type of range of services that we provide. Because frequently we always talk about the dedication and work of the teachers and administrators, but we have many, many others who put in time and effort to keep the building clean, to keep the maintenance things working, to keep the buses running on time, and to overall help with the infrastructure of the district. And the first person we want to recognize tonight has been integral to helping that infrastructure run, getting the buses on time, and that's one of my confidential secretaries, Mrs. Cora Bruce. Cora, with nearly 30 years under her belt, Cora will retire as transportation coordinator for the district, a position she has held since July 1999. Cora originally came to the district as a agent in the nurse's office, and I believe that's where she first met you, Dr. Mangus. For a time, she worked one-on-one with the student as personnel care aide and began assisting in the superintendent's office, quickly learning the ins and outs of the administration. As transportation coordinator, Cora takes time to carefully plan and coordinate bus routes in each of the 3 communities. She diplomatically handles calls from parents and strives to provide the best options for students who ride the bus, as well as coordinating all arrangements for field trips, athletics, and other school activities that require transportation, as well as being a good sport with some ribbing from Mr. Bassano, who constantly will be there to remind her if the buses are or are not on time. Her duties have also included budgeting for the district's transportation needs, working with administrators to negotiate the best transportation contract, and completing annual reports for the Department of Education. Cora says she will miss friends she's made at Carlynton, some will feel like family. She won't miss the early morning wake-up calls in the winter from your favorite superintendent at the moment when deciding to delay or cancel school until it's falling in the forecast. At home, Cora enjoys spending time with her husband, John. Together, they have 3 grown children, David, Jason, and Melissa. In retirement, she looks forward to having more time to devote to her grandsons, Jacob and Nicholas, who hold a very special place in her heart. Best wishes to you, Cora. It won't be the same year without you.
Get her a hug.
love working with everybody. And I thank all of you for working with me, helping me get to my retirement. So thank you.
Our next retiree is an outstanding teacher and educator and friend to the students and community, and that's Mr. Jim Degorski. Jim is celebrating over 30 years with the district, and during that time he's made tremendous impact on the lives of students. Beginning at Carnegie Elementary in the special education department, he later moved to the high school as a reading specialist and served as the federal programs and Title I coordinator before joining the staff at Crafton Elementary as a 6th grade teacher in 1993. It was in the classroom that Jim sought to make a difference in young lives. Reaching out to students in such a way that they wanted to learn, Jim ushered in a community service attribute that taught youngsters to be compassionate and benevolent, and to be grateful for what they have. By imparting daily classroom lessons with humor and gentle discipline, he tutored, sponsored amazing alternatives and student patrols, and found time to host and guide student teachers. His dedication did not go unnoticed. He was nominated for the Teacher Excellence Award, the National Honor Roll of Outstanding Teachers, a Barnes & Noble My Favorite Teacher Award, and most recently was one of 13 state finalists for the National Teacher of the Year Award. For Jim, life after retirement will give way to more time with his wife Mary, children Amy and Jason, and grandchildren Caitlin, Andrew, Isabella, Victoria, and Joshua. He also has a few other plans up his sleeve. Jim has said that he loves Carlynton School District, and it's been more than apparent that students, parents, and teachers of him love him also. Congratulations on your retirement, Jim, and this next chapter of your life.
Jim, would you like to say anything?
You did. You know, I can always come up with something. I was actually thinking about Cora, because many years we did the summer reading program, and Cora would map out our trip when we would run the buses to pick up all the kids to come to the program. And she would actually drive and find the route and then tell me what to do. And then the one bus driver took it upon himself to go a different route, drop the kids off at a different, and so that no one was at the bus stops. That was an interesting thing that she handled. So, but you know, I had sent my letter before, and you know, when I got resigned and get ready to retire. And like I said, this was always more than just a place of employment. It was a place that was like my family. So it was great. It's been great. So I thank you for this opportunity. It was an amazing 33 years. So I enjoyed every minute.
So to celebrate Jim and Cora's retirement, we're going to have a short recess, and we have, I believe, 9 boxes, and we have a short reception for Jim and for Cora. So we'll have a short recess, maybe 10 minutes, celebrate, congratulate them, and then continue with the meeting.
He did have to.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We have a presentation from Dr. Piper. You can turn your attention to the screen while we're
Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. As you know, we're in budget season, and at the 20th meeting, we're going to pass our final budget. There's a lot of things that have gone into the budget. It's been a lot of drama. We've stayed in the budget impasse for 9 months. And I have to give this board and our financial director, Mr. Christie, a lot of credit, because during the time of the impasse, we did not have to borrow. And because we didn't have to borrow, it didn't affect our credit rating. Because this district managed their money so well and didn't have a debt service for taking out new construction, that we didn't have that burden. If you see the local excerpt in the Friday's Post-Gazette, and you can just read up and down how many districts, because they had a debt service and because they had to borrow for construction, and there's no plan con monies from the state coming in to help reimburse, a lot of those districts are struggling now. So I think leading off the bat, we're in a better position than the districts are, simply by the fact that the money had been so well managed leading up to this point. But now we're all struggling with some of the same issues that are affecting everybody in the Commonwealth. So when you look at our big picture, what's our annual budget for a little district of 3 communities and approximately 1,370 kids? We're looking at $27 million for this year. 65% of our revenues come from local taxes. Of course, you know there's property taxes or income taxes. 32% from the state government, 3% from the federal government. One thing I think people need to realize is that the burden has shifted to local municipalities funding schools from the state. One of the things that's been an ongoing theme this year with the fair funding drive has been to develop a funding formula that will take in certain accounts for districts like poverty levels, property, income tax, and so forth. To have something that's more equitable than what it is now. And the governor's just signed off on the fair funding formula. Prior to that, when he was redistributing funds and when they passed the budget, you probably saw Philadelphia, Chester Upland were getting the bulk of the monies. And a lot of districts that were really struggling really weren't getting so much. So we struggle with a decrease over the years from the state government funding or contributing to public education to now we're looking at 32% of the state, which means more and more has shifted in an increase in local taxes.
So Dr. Pike, I can interrupt. Can you tell us roughly what was the state level of funding maybe 20 or 25 years ago? Was it also about 65% or?
The state funding was more like around 50%, going back to Milton Schaap and I think Dick Thornburg. But slowly with Rendell and Ridge, it became less and less into that. Our people costs, when you come to Carlynton, you look at any district, the bulk of our monies are spent on people in this room. Our faculty, our custodians, our superintendent, the building administrators, cafeteria, because we're a people business, working with kids, working with individuals. That's where the investment's coming from. If I include contracted services, when we work with ELL teachers, the intermediate unit, other service providers, then it goes up to about 80% of our budget. The fund balance at this point with the budget is going to be $1.8 million by June 30th. So that's based on the 15-16 budget. Again, we talked a little bit about state funding declining. And again, the transfer, the burden of local property taxes. And you can see in a small area like ours, we don't have a lot of room being a tier 1 suburban district. There's not a lot of room for new building. It's not South Fayette or North Allegheny, and there's fields in the building. So we have limited space. So that impacts the burden and increases it, and that doesn't count for the burden on our seniors. Try to be mindful of that. The timing of the funding, again, with the recent budget impasse being 9 months long, the only other state that's still going on is Illinois. What concerns me as your superintendent is going into July 1st, we're going to run into another budget impasse. Because the rhetoric going back and forth with the legislatures and the governor aren't really encouraging. So we got some concerns about the timing. Issues affecting us with district facilities. When we did the renovations and the board took a hard decision about do we air condition, do we redo the vestibules in the wake of Newtown to make it secure and safe for our students? Do we redo the track when the district didn't have a track? And coming up here every morning, I can tell you that track is used every day by members of the community, all hours. So for me, being a community partner, those types of investments have been a boon because they not only benefit our kids, they benefit our community. So with the budget impasse and tightening of revenue, it affects our ability to continue renovations, continue facility expansion, and increase student needs. And I really have to stress this because we're expected as a public service to meet the needs of all our learners. And I have kids coming from backgrounds where they're dealing with trauma, where they're dealing with abuse at the home, where they're dealing with hunger, where they're dealing with family issues. And they come here and they come with our teachers and our counselors and our principals, and they get help, and they get guidance, and they get an opportunity to succeed academically and have a future that they might not have had by their own in their home. And when you look at things that are indicators of our performance, like the school performance profile, and one of the things they measured, and Mantage will tell you, growth. And where do we see the growth? We see the growth by the impact the teachers make, the aides make, the building principals make on that individual student succeeding. Looking at where he began, with some diagnostic testing, using that as a benchmark and where they're going. So those are the things when you're looking at the budget. To increase the student needs, we're obligated to meet those needs. It's not a choice, it's part of our mission. So we want to provide counseling, psychological help if needed, opportunities to grow and expand. Chelsea Friss's library idea. Those types of programs come directly from things that we're doing here and are impacted by the budget. So again, trying to put people and kids in a face so it's not an abstract concept. But we have mandated costs. We're not like private industry where we can cut production on this or ignore something else. So these are big mandated costs. And you can see over a 3-year span, and I don't want to go back to this graph too small, but you can see where our pension has gone up from 13 to 15, 15, 16, 2,988,717. That's not the biggest piece that's listed on there, but it's the biggest percentage jump. So there's been, up to the last year, 14, 15, going back 20 years prior, a 700% increase in pension costs. And that's statewide. That's statewide. This is our own figures. But the second whammy, besides the increase, is that now the pension level is going to stay at a high rate for like the next 20 years. The next 20 years. And that's not the fault of the faculty, of the administration, of the business manager. That's the fault of the legislature, how the pension system was set up. 69% of our pension is funded by investments. 15% is by employee contribution, and 16% is by employer contribution. So that's an issue. Healthcare. Now these, if you notice, I have 6, 5, 16 on here because we don't know the full healthcare expenditure totals till we get through the summer and get some bills in. But this is where we are at this point in the year. It looks pretty stable. And we had a lower, Carlynton and a lot of the schools in Allegheny County are part of the Allegheny County Schools Health Insurance Consortium. Our own Don Alexander and other faculty members are representatives for the health insurance for here with the rates. They set the rates and then tell us what the rates are going to be. So I don't have any control over the pension costs. I don't have any control over the health care. So fortunately, the health care percentage of increase has been low the last couple of years, conceivably. 2.25% or 2.4%. But there's no guarantee it's going to stay that low. Special education, again, servicing all our kids' needs across the board. And you can see what those costs are. And again, we'll get bills all summer coming in, so this figure is incomplete as of this point. But it's not going down. Charter schools. If we don't pay the charter schools, and that has been one technique that some districts have utilized to try to save money, is delayed charter school payment. Kirby has not done that because we haven't had to. But even if he did, the state would take it out of our subsidy regardless. So you don't have any choice in that. And charter schools has been growing. And the last one, and this figure's a little bloated on the end because we'll get some money back, is homeless transportation. And we service a lot of homeless students in our district. And we should. We should welcome them into our district just as we welcome our special needs students, just as we welcome our advanced placement and gifted, because we serve all our students in our communities. And if it's a need in the district, it's a need we're going to address. Because I want them to be as successful as a student coming out of a house with 2 employed parents with college educations, and they know their child's going to Penn State or Pitt or somewhere else. Because we have that obligation being public educators. It's not just a financial obligation, it's a moral obligation to serve these kids. But those are mandated costs. So when we calculate the whole budget, those are things we don't have control over. And sometimes I think people lose sight of that. So when we look at the pension, so the pension that everybody talks about that I'm in as a public school employee is Pennsylvania State Employee Retirement System, PSERS. And again, we talked that it's funded by investment earnings, employer contributions, and employees. The employees have always paid into the pension system. Sometimes people get angry because they think people aren't paying their fair share. The employees have always paid in. The schools have always paid in. Due to an increase in benefits going back to 2001 and a loss of funds due to the recession, because they took money, and again, it's in investments, and when they take a hit, the returns on the investments took a hit, and that affected the pension crisis. Because I can't say, well, hold it, the markets took a dive, and we're not going to pay the pensions. Can't do it. So you got to afford it. Statewide, and we got some clarification, $37 billion PSERS deficit, statewide. So it's not just Carlynton who's wrestling with these issues. How do we continue to provide a quality program, a rigorous education, an opportunity for kids who are struggling to get ahead, and then also meet our obligations for pensions, meet our obligations for health care, provide special needs and homeless students opportunities, just like the other kids get. So all those things we're vested with. Here you can see, and I gotta look down here, I don't know if you can see that because it's in tan, but you can see the percentage contribution of pensions. And we'll put this PowerPoint on the website for people to take a look at, because it's all public knowledge. But you can see the projected rates, 32.04. Don't win. Take me out. 32.04, 33.27, 34.20 estimated at this point. So you can see on the chart the rate continues to rise. And no one comes to us and say, Dr. Piper, is there a way that you want to pay that rate? And I say, no, we're not going to pay that rate. We don't have a choice. It is what it is, and that's the challenge we face when we're going through our own budget. So we have the cumulative rate. Carlynton will pay more than $5 million in additional pension costs from 08-09 to 16-17. Additional costs.
Could you repeat that additional cost?
$5 million. $5 million. Now, again, with your board, who has a reputation for really being collaborative, unified, and community-centered. And when I talk to colleagues of mine in other districts, I got a lot of kudos for this board, David Roussos' led board, and boards before, because people have worked with the community to keep the rates stable. So you see the local tax rate had been pretty much the same, going back from 04, 05, and dropping a little bit in 12, 13, and then there was a readjustment of the taxes and a reassessment, and then you've seen them going up. But, as in our budget, we have to raise to the index. So for this year, our index is going to be, we got approved for 0.98, and the monetary amount we'll probably get from that is around $600,000.
It's approved by the state.
Right. So, here's what we're looking at through all that. The estimated fund balance as of July 1st, $1,874,000. We're taking in revenues of $26,349,940, which includes the local tax increase, and there's the approximate. Our expenditures are $27,333,307. That includes cuts of $832,012 to discretionary spending. So that's where I went back to the budget with the board, with Mr. Christie. We looked at expenditure line items. Professional development took a hit. Facilities and maintenance took a hit. Different line and spending items. So looking at the 3-year average of a particular line item, did we spend it? If we spend it in 09 and we set the funding at a certain height, we continue to spend that same amount in 13, 14, and 14, 15. If not, we cut it. I cut it. So able to do that helps, but it doesn't leave us without an operating deficit. And the operating deficit is $983,367. So that'll leave us, if we take that out of the fund balance going to next summer, in 17, we'll have $890,633. Now, David and I were talking earlier, when they talk about school budgets, you want to have a fund balance of at least 5%. You start getting below 5%, that starts getting to be an issue. So it's going to be something we're going to be taking a look at. So don't expect a lot of field trips or a lot of things, professional conferences, because we're really going to have to keep a tight line on some of those items. So our goal, when we've looked at some of the realignments, and we talked about Chapter 4 realigning at the last meeting we were at in the cafeteria, and we look at trying to balance the budget, we're really trying to do is control costs and a minimal impact on students, so we can have the same programs as much as possible, minimize impact on the local taxpayer, in particular our seniors, and retain fund balance. So anything extra we get, like the gas, because we put in a certain amount for gas, we had a pretty mild winter, we were able to take some of that extra gas money we budgeted for and put that into the fund balance. So the theme that I'll be going back to the administrative team and the staff is going to be, just because we have it doesn't mean we're going to necessarily spend it. We got to rebuild some of the fund balance because we need to. Stuff comes up, and for example, when we redid the Carnegie roof, and we had an overdraw of the cost of the roof, and we had to take out of the fund reserve to pay for that. Some of those things happen with construction and renovations. So it's dangerous, and we've been lucky that we haven't had, God forbid, a tornado, a natural disaster, lead in the water, any of those types of things that would come out of left field and cause a significant expenditure. So we have to keep rebuilding that as almost like a rainy day fund to guard against those types of things. So as we go in, and this board has a budget proposal, we'll vote on the final budget on the 20th. This is what we're looking at this time. And then just for an archive, you can just go back and take a look at some of the numbers for the fund balance, and that's a 5-year view. So again, we'll have this on the website for people to take a look at. I want to thank Jim and Joe and other members of the board for helping put this together and allow me to insert some things in here as well. But I think this really is a nice, concise statement of what the budget's looking like and some of the struggles that we wrestle with on the board to try to balance the need to provide a premier program and be a premier district in Western Pennsylvania, and also the need to contain costs and try to continue to realign what we're doing.
Any questions for Dr. Piper, board members first? And then
So, Dr. Piper, getting to the rate we're going to be contributing towards pensions. I saw you had it on the side there. I didn't know if people had seen this high rate, this 32 to 34% estimated rate. It's going to be with us for the next 15 years at least.
Yes, that's right.
And then it's going to gradually start to go down, but it won't be below, we're back to historically, what is it, 4.5, 6%?
It's not going to be single digits.
20 years.
Right.
For another 20 years. So that maybe. And that's really high on our hands.
Right, because it's not just the spike, it's then the maintenance of that high level.
And I'm really glad that you mentioned that the teachers and the faculty and everyone, the staff has been consistently making their contributions, as have the school districts. However, the liability, the pension crisis is just, it's been one of these things, it's like, it's been growing for such a long time that it's at the point where, if they're talking about, okay, well, we're in a budgeting path, if they can't figure that out, how are they gonna figure out the state legislature? How are they gonna figure out how to give us some relief on what we're contributing to pension to fund the deficit? And it's really hard whenever you look at these things, you say, well, that's out of my control. I have to account for it, but I can't do anything about it. So I think it's really important that people be active in keep the pressure on legislators to actually work together and do something about this, because it's, I wish I had my number in front of me, but you could divide it by the number of people in the state, and it's not an insignificant sum for each person in the state. That's their portion of that liability. So it's pretty tough.
So if I could add to that quickly, the other piece, if anyone does talk to their legislators, at the very beginning of the presentation, we saw that the local tax amount is about 2/3 of the overall budget for our district. That used to be about half. So what's happened over the past 25 years is, as Harrisburg, both parties have evolved and they've pushed taxes away from the state level, they push it down to the local level. So this is not just a Carlynton thing, this is all districts in PA are spending more of their local money to run their school districts and less state money. So that's putting the burden on the local taxpayer to help fund the local school district, which is increasingly difficult. So if you're talking to your legislator, you can ask them about their opinion about the levels of state funding for education, for K-12 education.
It's sort of deceptive in a way when they say we have raised taxes at the state level, because what they have done is the vast majority of districts in Pennsylvania have had to, at the district local level, raise taxes because they hadn't done it at the state level. So when your state legislator says, well, we haven't raised taxes in 5 years, well, no, you haven't, but that effect is that your local school districts have to raise taxes. And so locally, we have to pay more. But historically, the state has to pay more.
And again, it's because we have these mandated costs that don't go away. So special needs costs per federal law, where do they make those costs?
And the difference for us in this small landlocked district, we don't have the huge population that the Upper St. Clairs and the South Fayettes have, where they have more people than us. We don't have anywhere to build. We don't have any. We have what we have. We're not growing. We're not, going to get to this some enormous district because there are new developments all over the place.
If we're adding new water lines, it's because we had a water main break.
Exactly.
It's not because we're doing new developments.
And in addition to that, we don't have the commercial developments to get the taxes from. We have to unfortunately tax ourselves to do that. We can't tax Giant Eagle and the new Walmart and the new, whatever it is. It's our houses that we have to get the taxes from, which is unfortunately us.
Does any member of the public have any questions for Dr. Beck?
How about the homeless transportation? That's such an increase in 1 year from the next.
Well, we'll probably get some of that back.
Oh, okay.
But we've had kids under McKinney-Vento. So let's say I get kicked out of my house, and I still want to go to Carlynton because I'm at Carlynton, but the homeless shelter is in Imperial, or the people I'm doubling up with are in Nirvana, and we've had situations like that. Then we have to transport that student because under law, the student has the ability to say, hey, I want to stay at Carlynton. I love Mrs. Badge. I love Mr. Cozy. This is where I want to go. I'm playing on the football team. So they got the ability to come to our district. Now, what a lot of districts will do, will work with each other. So if it's Monroeville, it's Gateway, and we may be able to split the cost with them and get some of those, recoup some of these losses with that. But the way the law spelled out, and the way you define homeless too, is a child could be doubling up with somebody. So if they're moving in with Uncle Ernie and Aunt Linda, that may be considered doubling up, and we're still transporting them. So we're still providing services for them. So transportation's, a concrete cost that we pay out. This year's been higher so far because we've had an increase in homeless students. Thank you.
So we have a presentation now or a comment from Mr. Thomas Kelsey and Dean First.
Yeah, I'm gonna have taken a handout, like a little page to you, what I'm gonna read, just so that everybody can hear it. Not the best public speaker in the world, but.
You're good. Do you want to identify yourself as a?
My name's Tom Kelsey, I'm president of Carlynton Custodial Maintenance Association. And this is just about, we're trying to have the position replaced, but we're gonna. Okay. You ready? Okay, I like reading sitting down. Anyway, employee Mike Dudich retired effective January 22nd, 2016. The district filled the position, the custodial position, with a substitute until we filed a grievance on March 22nd, 2016. The fact it was filled until then shows that it was important to fill. The facilities director had done a time study for the high school, and the study showed that we were a custodial position short before the loss of this position. Now we are 2 custodians short with the same workload. The gym wing, the gym, pool, locker rooms, weight room, mat room, gang bathrooms, etc. cannot be properly cleaned due to time constraints caused by the shift and the lack of personnel. The area used to get 7.5 hours of cleaning, but now with the changes, it only gets 3 to 3.5 hours during the sports seasons. The locker rooms used to get Ty-Wiz nightly, which is a disinfectant machine, where you soak everything down and vacuum it up, and there isn't time for that anymore. This is a safety issue for students and visitors due to MRSA, staff, etc. Also, the gym is being left in terrible condition after events due to people bringing in food and drinks at will. This wasn't a problem in the past, and it adds quite a bit of cleaning time to an area already being shortchanged. There are many rules in the agreement between the board and the employees being broken due to the non-filling of the custodial position. We have maintenance men working as custodians during non-emergencies. The maintenance helper is doing 4 hours of custodial work because there's too much work for one custodian on a day shift. The facilities director is doing bargaining unit work because of the shortage of staff. We could be filing grievances every time this happens. We have decided to try to come here and get a solution to these issues. We've been overlooking these things to work with the district to get through the school year. But without filling these things, or without filling the positions, these things continue to occur and are clear contract violations. The solutions, number 1 is what we'd like, would be to fill the custodial position. Number 2, if not, bring the maintenance helper back to custodial, because he is already working half the shift as a custodian. This will actually save money and keep our cleaning staff at the level it was at the beginning of the school year and satisfy the contract. We understand the budget is tight, but believe the cleanliness of the building is paramount. The board's priority should be to ensure the safety of everyone who enters this building, and cutting a position at the high school jeopardizes the health of everyone.
Thanks for sharing with us. We've talked before. You've shared your concerns. We have great faith in Dave. I think he's worked with you a lot in the past to try to balance what needs to get done and what we're able to fund.
Yeah, well, what we have right now with what's called the flex position, where you have a maintenance helper working half as a custodian, half as a maintenance helper, that's not really working that well now, because you can't have just one custodian in that high school during the day. There's just too much going on, with the lunches, you have, what, 700 some students? If something happens outside of the cafeteria, you know, like somebody throws up or whatever, and the party's busy in the cafeteria, it can last a long time before they get there. A teacher told me last week that a student had a nosebleed in one of the water fountains during first lunch. And because there's only one custodian there, and she was busy doing something else, it took a while before she could get out to clean that. And what if that person had hepatitis or something? I mean, we're not trying to, you know, cause a stir by it. We really need this position filled in some way or another. And if you can't fill it by bringing somebody in, we'd at least like to have our maintenance helper back that used to be a custodian, would move the maintenance helper.
I'll turn to Dr. Pfeiffer and perhaps Dennis continue to work with you. You saw the budget constraints we're under, they're pretty severe. I think you guys have done a fantastic job. We've had a lot of compliments about the state of the building, all the facilities. There's a lot of pride that's apparently taken in your work. So as a lot of the other staff has had to do, we're going to be flexible, we're going to have to be creative perhaps, and we'll look to Dennis to work with you and work with Dr. Pfeiffer to come up with some possible suggestions on ways to get the right work done within some of the constraints we've had.
I think a big way would be bringing that maintenance helper back in, because it will actually save the money, you know, the district some money. But, you know, up to you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'll move on, and I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 12, 2016 voting meeting as presented. Do I have a motion? So moved by second. Second, any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. My solicitor reminded me that we often have a time for public to comment on agenda items. I didn't see anybody sign up, but is there anyone who wishes to speak on an agenda item tonight?
I don't believe it's an agenda item. I would comment on the topic that was brought up by the superintendent, if that would be acceptable to the board.
Absolutely. Sir.
My name is David Russos. I live on Walnut Street in Crafton, previous member of the board. And I wanted to rise to speak to two things. One is to applaud this board for the very difficult work that they've been doing. Clearly, they have felt, they have faced a great challenge. We have a tremendous district here with tremendous programs, and a lot of folks have a lot invested in each of those programs. I think we've heard in previous meetings from folks in support of programs that are or may have been looking at cuts in the resources provided to them. It's a very difficult thing to do because we value, clearly this board values, all those folks who are participating and contributing to this district. So I applaud you for the difficult work you've done. But I also want to speak here on behalf of another group, and that is the June 2017 Carlynton Board of Directors. Because I believe a year from now, you are going to be facing a financial crisis measurably more difficult than the one you're facing now. I think Mr. Pfeiffer pointed a lot of that out. We're looking at a fund balance that will be, by his own standard, $500,000 below what is felt it should be. We will most likely, I would submit, look at an expansion of that deficit, because I don't think any of us is should be expecting increased basic education funding monies. We're limited in terms of where the revenue is going to come from. So the question then is, what are we going to do with expenditures? And while you've done so much, and very admirable, and should be applauded for that, I urge you to consider the position you are placing yourselves in next year. Because I think it's not unreasonable at all, if you're serious about maintaining that the fund balance at the levels that Mr. Pfeiffer's talking about. And the lack of funding is everything we expect it to be. I don't think it's at all unreasonable to expect something twice what it is now. So I urge this board, for your own sake, as difficult as it would be, to avoid the financial challenge, even catastrophe, some might say, that would be facing this district and this board next year. I think something that folks may not appreciate now, but as a result of your hard work 12 months from now, I think folks would be able to then, in retrospect, appreciate the kind of sacrifices they were asked to make, were well worth it. So again, thank you for all you've done. I know you're all pursuing the same objective and the same goal. There's some discussion, I'm sure, no doubt, on the right path to take, but I think this district's in very good hands, and I do again applaud you for all you've done. Thank you.
Any other comments? Moving on, I'll report that we had an executive session prior to this meeting where we discussed personnel, real estate, and potential litigation. I'll now turn to Dr. Baker for the administrative reports.
Thank you. I'd like to turn to Mr. McAdoo.
Make ours brief. We have two really special events this week. Baccalaureate tomorrow night here, and commencement, it's at 7 o'clock tomorrow, and commencement at 7 o'clock at Honest Wagner Field, if the weather is cooperative.
Mrs. Hudson.
Ours quick as well tomorrow at 9 o'clock is our 6th grade recognition. He's doing. Want to just thank Carlynton for again coming to speech for our Navy last week and for our junior achievement grant.
Mr. Christie.
We've been notified of our allocation for the 16-17 school year related to the distribution of the state gaming funds. We're going to receive $110 more than we received in 15-16. Figure we're going to receive is $110.02 more than we received in 15-16. However, we're going to receive $558,061, which is nothing to sneeze at. That'll result in a motion to have a property tax reduction, and anyone that has a homestead assessment at the June 20th meeting. And the average person, or the homestead value be the same as it was last year, approximately $171. So while we're not getting a lot more, we're not getting less. So that's good news. So if you have a homestead exception on your property, you'll receive approximately $171, which comes through an assessment reduction, not a check from the district or anything of that nature. That completes my report. Thank you.
Dr. Mays.
We received notification from PCG, which is the firm employed by the state to manage the medical assistance program and the reimbursements of medical assistance, that our annual cost settlement report reconciliation from the 14-15 school year will result in a payment to our FAI of $142,000. We are one of the very few school districts who actually receive money back from the cost settlement. Our aides, our transportation, we have nurses for students that are one-to-one nurses based on their medical needs, and also our school nurses, as well as speech and language pathologists do billing that brings in revenue to the district. So we are fortunate that we bring in revenue because there are districts who are in other situations where they don't bill enough to make the difference in what they're paid. So we will be receiving pending, just we have to sign off that we approve it, $142,000 in our federal state level. That's good news.
Okay. Mrs. Burleson.
Save it back for last.
I did.
Short. Our graduation, 6th grade graduation, is on Wednesday at 8:45, and then everybody's just working hard to end the year and get everything ready and have a good summer break. So you could have skipped me.
Mr. Mathis.
Hey, I'm happy to report the testing is over. Really happy. We'll get the scores in June, or excuse me, July. So it's going to be July on both the PSSA and and I'd just like to take an opportunity to put a shout out to thank the faculty and staff for making this experience for the kids a much easier one. you know, change some schedules and what we need this year. Seemed to kind of work out a little bit better, so thank you, Danny.
Thank you. Who's our report?
Moving on to the miscellaneous portion of our agenda, I will entertain a motion to approve two items. Number one, additions to the 2015-2016 conference and field trip requests as submitted. And number two, a revision to the MOU between the district and the Carlynton Federation of Teachers regarding district school psychologist Rebecca Sawczyk and Tricia Surrey, with the transition date of June 30th, 2016. Do I have such a motion? Moved by the second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 2, finance, I'll entertain a motion to approve the following 5 items. Number 1, the academic mental health services agreement between the district and the Wesley Spectrum for the provision of mental health and autism interventions for the 2016-2017 school year. Number 2, proposal submitted by Wesley Spectrum Behavioral Health Services for a part-time behavioral health worker for the 2016-2017 school year at a cost of $17,000. Number 3, the proposed resolution for the 2016-2017 administrative budget of the South Central Area Special Schools Jointure, which is Pathfinder, as submitted. Number 4, the April 2016 athletic fund report with an ending balance of $7,664.41. And number 5, the April 2016 activities fund report with an ending balance of $78,070.21. Do I have a motion for those 5 items? So moved. Moved, do I have a second? Moved and seconded, any discussion?
Yes. On number 2, the cost of the $17,000, that's due to a grant, correct?
No, that would be paid for out of medical assistance, so that money that we've received, and that is to support the opening of an emotional support program. That's more comprehensive.
What is the last thing you said?
At the junior senior high level.
Excellent, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under section 3, personnel, let's break this up into a couple of pieces. I'll entertain a motion for the first 2 items. Number 1, the 2016-2017 athletic supplemental list with returning coaches as submitted. And number 2, the 2016-2017 activity supplemental list with returning advisors as submitted. Do I have a motion for those 2 items?
So moved.
Moved on a second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion for number 3, the 2016-2017 curriculum supplemental list with returning coordinators as submitted. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
1 nay. Motion carries. I will entertain a motion to approve items 4, 6, and 7. Number 4, the elimination of a custodian position effective immediately. Number 6, the letter of resignation submitted by cafeteria worker Fatima Jalad, effective June 1st, 2016. And number 7, Greg Gazella and Gary Bukowski to the position of summer maintenance helper for the summer of 2016 as submitted and under the terms of the custodial maintenance collective bargaining unit agreement. Do I have such a motion for those 3 items? Moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. And then lastly, under that section, I will entertain a motion for number 5, the employment of 2 summer help technicians at an hourly rate of $10 for the period of June 20th through August 12th, 2016. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Moved, do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Just the details on what the summer help division is.
In speaking with Brian, you know, this is the year that we bought the new LMS system that's coming out, learning management system. And there's a lot of routine maintenance work that needs to be done, from refreshing equipment, downloading software, cleaning equipment. that Brian really can't do it on his own. They really don't want to go out to CCI and bring in some additional help. We have kids been working on tech crew for quite some time. We have students in this district who have computer skills and have experience at Parkway CPC. The thinking was that we could provide them an opportunity, just like we do with some maintenance helpers, to come up and add their expertise to do some of those routine positions. So Brian has that scheduled to begin, I believe, June 20th, and go until I think by August 4th. Something August 12th, the dates Brian gave. But really give him a shot in the arm as we get the LMS system up and going.
Any other questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. And I will abstain from that vote because my son has applied for the job, so I'm safe.
We will fill out the confirmation.
Motion carries. Number, section 4, policy. I'll entertain a motion to approve the second and final reading of policies 100 through 110 for the policy review conducted by PSEA. I have that motion. Moved, do I have a second? Moved and second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Under old business, does any director have any old business they would like to bring up? If not, we'll move on. New business. Is there any director that has a new business they'd like to bring up? Anyone else? Okay. I would like to, I'll entertain a motion, I should say, to approve an early retirement incentive for the Carlynton Federation of Teachers effective June 6th, 2016 through June 14th, 2016 at 4 p.m. as presented to the board. So I have such a motion. Moved by a second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Motion is carried. I'll entertain a second motion. This one is to approve the retirement of Nancy Martin effective June 9th, 2016, pursuant to the terms of the early retirement incentive in effect from June 6th, 2016 through June 14th. Through June 14th, 2016 at 4 p.m. And then number 2 under that motion, combined motion, is to approve the retirement of Michael Toten effective June 10th, 2016, pursuant to the terms of the early retirement incentive in effect from June 6th, 2016 through June 14th, 2016 at 4 p.m. So 2 people retiring under one motion, Nancy Martin and Michael Toten. Do I have such a motion? So moved on a second? Second. Moved and second. Any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Any other new business from the director? Any open forum items for the director? Any open forum items from the audience?
I have a question about the number 5 under personnel. And I was just curious as to why that wasn't put out to the employees of the school district before the students of the school district.
I apologize, I can't hear. Do you want to?
I was wondering why that was put out to the students of the school district before the employees of the school district. Item number 5 under personnel.
We made announcements over the loudspeaker for the kids at the high school. The board decided the last meeting, put things out, announce that, and we had kids apply for it.
But my question was, why was it not put out to the employees of the school district before the students?
I don't know that we thought about it, so.
We made the announcements over the loudspeakers at the high school. It was really a secondary position, and brought them out.
I think in years past, we've had college kids come in and do it. We've had different.
We got interns.
Interns do it.
And sort of thinking with our philosophy of trying to give kids more real-world experience, and we could do that in-house over the summer.
We can't hear.
And it was going on, I think part of the thinking was also, it's going along with thinking of providing students more real-world opportunities for their interests and their skill sets. And if this opportunity came up where this low-level, basically lower-level work, if they could get that experience in a summer
position has historically been for students, whether they were college students or high school students, that this was a student position. That's why initially it wasn't set up for the adults. It was positioned as for students.
If we think there's adults that are interested in future years, we should speak up now and make sure that we know that for future.
Yeah, we're trying to give kids an opportunity.
And I had one other question. At the last meeting, there were several people from the teachers union, the jobs were eliminated. And, there's also a secretary's position from the SCA unit. And I was just wondering what criteria, what data was the board given to make that informed decision to eliminate that position?
All the staff realignment was based on Chapter 4 Standards of Operation and Organization in Educational Facilities. So the positions that were identified at that meeting were all aligned to that as per the PowerPoint. And that was across the board when we were looking at being more efficient and realigning our staff and resizing.
Okay, and then just one other fast question. At one of the meetings, and this was probably 7 or 8 months ago, I think it was Dr. Piper, you were speaking about all the new services that the school district has and how the in-school suspension rates have gone down, the out-of-school suspension, the expulsions, the detentions, and Mr. Loughran agreed with that the numbers have gone down. Do you have any idea of about how many kids go through in-school suspension in maybe a week?
I don't have a cumulative number of that or a weekly number of that. We can certainly get those figures. And I know we're working with the building administration, Mr. Maggie and Mr. Lockman, to take a look at what this one was in terms of not just in-school suspension, how many out-of-school suspension, how many detentions, how many days, and what types of infractions. And that's all part of your end report.
Okay, the reason why I was asking that question was, at the last meeting, jobs were eliminated that people thought were very important, the RTI jobs and the librarians, and I don't understand if there's not that many kids in school suspension, why we have
I didn't
jobs.
say there's not that many kids in school suspension. What I said was we'll be able to sit down at the end of the year and go through a tally of how many kids have gone through. I can tell you that in-school suspension is a highly valuable part of an overall revision to the discipline policy that was worked together with the administration and the faculty, because what was happening before, if kids weren't going to detention or Saturday detention, he gets suspended. And the goal is to keep the kids in school so we can get them work, keep them on pace, and so they don't fall behind. Because out-of-school suspensions, unless a kid is so disruptive or violent that they have to be suspended out of school, we want to keep the kids in-house so we can get them materials to move ahead.
No, I agree with that. I was just wondering how many went through, just to compare that to like how many kids went through the library or whatever. But the other question is, in the past, a paraprofessional did that job of in-school suspension. And when did that change and why did it change?
Well, I'm not aware of a paraprofessional running in-school suspension.
It was in the
Prior to my
past.
arrival, when I came here, there was no in-school suspension.
And
So I know to have a teacher in there who can work with the fellow faculty members to get the work and be licensed and be able to grade the work and get that back, that to me would be preferable. So
Okay, I've been
one
here 22
professional in-school
years.
suspension supervisor.
And in the past, it was a paraprofessional that did it. And is there a reason why then a teacher doesn't do it at the elementary school instead of a paraprofessional?
Well, again, I'd have to look at the elementary and talk to the elementary principals if we're looking at revising the discipline policy and implementing in-school suspension for, and that's something we have to discuss there.
Okay, it was just a question out of curiosity that I was asking, that I would bring towards the board.
Any other questions from the public? Nothing for them? If not, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, nay.